March 3, 2012. Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Helen Carter. I was 58 years old the day my heart was torn out of my body, and I was expected to keep living anyway. It was a clear, cold Saturday morning. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen counter. The coffee machine clicked and hummed. I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt. I remember feeling safe. At 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from my son, Daniel. Running late. Love you to simple sentences. I can still see them glowing on the screen. I can still see my own reflection in the glass as I smiled. I almost typed back, drive safe. I almost called him just to hear his voice. I didn't. I thought there would be time. At 11:47 a.m., a number I didn't recognize called. A calm male voice introduced himself as a Massachusetts state trooper. There had been an accident on I-93. A tractor-trailer. My son's vehicle. Severe impact. He said the word fatal. I remember the sound of ceramic hitting tile because the mug fell from my hand and shattered across the kitchen floor. I remember staring at the pieces as if they were puzzle fragments I could rearrange into a different ending. I said, "That's not possible. You must have the wrong person." He did not. The drive to the hospital felt like I was moving through someone else's life. Cars changed lanes. People crossed streets. A couple laughed at a bus stop. I wanted to roll down my window and scream, "Stop everything." The world has ended, but the world did not stop. It never does. At Massachusetts General, they led me into a quiet room. Quiet rooms are where hope goes to die. A doctor came in and removed his glasses before speaking. I will never forget that small gesture. "I'm so sorry." He didn't survive. There are moments when your body understands before your mind is willing to. Something tore through me, something raw and ancient. I made a sound I did not recognize as human. I remember thinking, this is what it feels like to physically break without bleeding. They asked if I wanted to see him. I said yes because I am his mother and mothers go to their children. He looked like he was sleeping, but the stillness was wrong. The air around him felt wrong. I touched his face. I held his hand. It was cooler than it should have been. I whispered, "Mom's here, Danny." "I'm here." I told him I loved him. I apologized for every ordinary thing I had ever complained about. I would have traded my own heartbeat for his. I would have given anything for one more role, one more argument about politics, one more late-night fridge raid. He was 22 years old. He had a new job lined up in Cambridge. He was apartment hunting. He was arguing with me about which couch he should buy. His life was unfolding. And then it wasn't. The days after felt like walking through thick glass. Phone calls blurred together. My husband sat at the dining table staring at nothing. Our daughter flew in from Chicago and collapsed into my arms, and I remember thinking I have to stay alive for her. We chose a photograph where he was laughing at his college graduation, sunlight in his hair. How do you reduce 22 years into a single image on an easel? At the service, the church overflowed. His friends stood shoulder to shoulder, boys who had once filled our house with noise now standing silent in dark suits. Professors spoke about his brilliance. Teammates spoke about his loyalty. I listened as if they were describing someone else, because the alternative was unbearable. When they closed the casket, something inside me collapsed again. Going home afterward was worse than the funeral. His sneakers were by the door. His jacket hung over the back of a chair. A cereal bowl sat in the sink with a spoon still in it. Grief lives in objects. It hides in the ordinary. That first night I stood outside his bedroom and could not turn the knob. Opening that door meant accepting a reality I did not consent to. When I finally stepped inside, the air felt heavy. His bed was unmade. A half-read book rested on his nightstand. There were notes on his desk about coding projects and future plans. The future, written in ink, now meaningless. I lay across his bed and pressed my face into his pillow until I could barely breathe. I begged God to wake me up from whatever nightmare this was. I promised anything. Take years off my life. Give him mine. Just let him walk through that door again. But the house stayed silent. The weeks that followed were a haze of sympathy cards and casseroles. People said, "He's in a better place. There is no better place than a mother's kitchen on a Saturday morning." People said, "You're so strong." I was not strong. I was shattered and upright at the same time. I cried in grocery store aisles. I avoided the highway where the accident happened. I replayed every moment of his life, searching for the exact second I could have changed fate. Why didn't I insist he take the train? Why didn't I call after that text? Why didn't I protect him better? Guilt is merciless. It tells mothers they are omnipotent. It tells us love should have been enough to stop a truck traveling at 65 miles per hour. My husband grieved quietly, retreating into work, into spreadsheets and late meetings. I grieved loudly, unpredictably. Some nights we lay in bed inches apart, both awake, both drowning, unable to save each other. Loss either builds a wall or a bridge between two people. For a long time it was a wall. Holidays felt violent. The first Thanksgiving I set for plates out of habit. When I realized what I had done, I stood frozen, staring at the empty chair. Christmas morning arrived with stockings, but one remained untouched. Fireworks on the 4th of July sounded like collisions. The world celebrated while I counted absence. And yet, somehow, the sun kept rising. The dog still needed to be walked. Bills still needed to be paid. Our daughter still needed her mother. I felt guilty the first time I laughed months later at something small. I covered my mouth as if joy were betrayal. But grief is not a contract of lifelong misery. Love does not demand that you die alongside the person you lost. Nearly a year later, I walked along the Charles River where Daniel used to run. The wind was sharp. The skyline reflected on the water. I sat on a bench and cried as I had cried 100 times before. But in the middle of it, something shifted. I felt gratitude. Not for his death. Never for that. But for his life. For 22 years of hugs and debates and music blasting from his bedroom. For the privilege of being his mother. The pain did not disappear. It changed shape. It became something I could carry instead of something that crushed me. I started therapy and learned that trauma settles into the body, into the nervous system, into the way your heart races at sudden sounds. I joined a support group for parents who had buried their children. The first time I said, "My son died," my voice broke. But in that circle, I was not alone. We spoke our children's names like sacred words. We told stories about who they were before the moment that took them. I learned that survival itself is bravery. In the beginning, survival is enough. Drink water. Step outside. Answer one message. Stay alive. On the 3rd anniversary of his death, we created a scholarship in Daniel's name for students pursuing computer science. The first time I handed that award to a nervous high school senior, I felt something warm cut through the ache. His name was being spoken with hope attached to it. On the 5th anniversary, I planted a red maple tree in our backyard. It was thin and fragile. Now it towers above the fence, blazing red every fall against the New England sky. When I stand beneath it, I think about roots, about growth, about how something can rise from soil soaked in tears. There are still days when grief ambushes me. A young man who laughs like he did. A news alert about highway accidents. A song that used to play from his room. The pain still comes, but it no longer owns me. It visits. It sits beside me. And then it softens. If you are listening to this and your loss is fresh, I will not insult you with promises that it gets better. I will tell you it gets different. The sharpness dulls. The memories stop attacking and start embracing. You will carry sorrow and joy in the same hands. You will learn that love does not end when breath does. March 3, 2012 will always be the day my life divided. But it is also the day I began understanding how deep a mother's love truly runs. He was 22 years old. He loved fiercely. He lived fully. He is still my son. And I am still his mother. In the quiet after the sirens, after the condolences, after the casseroles stop coming, there is still love. And that love, somehow, is stronger than the silence.